Hey everybody, ronarray here. The cost of workers' wages in Kingsmarch can be jaw-dropping, and gold in high demand too, so I wanted to share a pretty simple gold farming strategy that I've been using myself. Generally, it's a very basic setup that will require only cheap scarabs that you can get for 1 or 2 chaoses, but can net you up to 40k gold per tier 16 map with some preparation. And you could do it in tier 17 as well for even more gold if you like to. As usual, I will explain everything that you will need to do in step-by-step fashion, so check out the timestamps and let's go. So at the start, let's focus on things that can help us to scale amounts of gold. First off, the gold scales very good with rarity, so getting any rarity bonuses will increase our numbers of gold significantly. I recommend getting at least 3 rare items with higher rarity rolls to farm gold, but we will talk about that a little later. Second, monsters that are innate inhabitants of the map, such as ambush monsters or packs from shrines, will drop much more gold than monsters spawned from separate mechanics, such as Legion or Abyssus for example. So focusing on innate mechanics is pretty much the key to maximize our gold amounts. Third, monsters resurrected by rituals will drop gold again, and they will drop more because they are still considered natural inhabitants for the maps, so rituals are very beneficial for gold farming and should be added to the setup. And last, pack size of any kind can provide more monsters in the map, and by extension more gold. So we will need to stack pack size literally everywhere where we can. So that leads us to the situation when we need to choose between Domination and Ambush Scarabs. And the biggest issue with Ambush Scarabs is pretty much their price right now. So just basic Ambush Scarab will cost you at least 10 chaoses and maybe even more than that. So I think Domination Scarabs are pretty much better option right now, just because those are very cheap and the cost of the map will be significantly less. So choosing between two, I'm mostly choosing Domination just based on the price itself. So another very good but pretty cheap Scarab for pack size is Scarab of Monsters Lineage. You pretty much can get 40% of increased magic pack size from one Scarab, and that one will cost only about 3 chaoses. So I recommend to use it in the most cases because getting more magic monsters will pretty much get you more gold as well. And next step is Domination Scarab of Evolution. Domination Scarab of Evolution is just amazing. It's going to give you an additional shrine, and that's pretty cool because normal Domination Scarab is going to give you 2 shrines, so Domination Scarab of Evolution will provide you only half of it, so only 1 shrine. But Evolving Shrine are going to rise rarity of monsters when you are killing them. So if you're killing white monsters, you will have a chance to pretty much convert them to blue monsters. And blue monsters will have a chance to be converted to rare monsters. All of that are going to help you significantly with receiving more gold from packs. So I definitely recommend using Scarabs of Evolution in your setup. You can use 1 Scarab like that or even 2 of those if you will be able to rotate the shrines because their duration will be around 1 minute. You can clear them up first with 1 Scarab and then clear the second part when you will get to the second shrine. So right now Domination Scarab of Evolution is definitely worth it in my opinion. It's also very cheap and costs only 1 chaos, so try to use it. So generally your full setup should look something like that. 2 Domination Scarabs of Evolution, 2 normal Domination Scarabs, and pretty much Scarab of Monsters Lineage. If you don't really like Evolution, you can drop one of the Scarabs for it and just use normal Domination Scarab for 2 more shrines. I still recommend to use at least 1 Evolution because it can help to clear them up with a pretty nice bonus on top. And as an option of the crafting for map device, you can take Domination because it will give you 3 additional shrines, which is a pretty decent number for only 3 chaoses. And in most cases, I just feel like it's worth it, and that's a very good option. So just pick Domination, and I think it's going to be perfect for the whole setup. So right now we are moved to the pretty important question, what to pick in the Atlas. I think the most important part in the Atlas is pretty much getting Occult Devotion, because that way you're going to receive maximum ritual altars all the time. It's also recommended to go to the left and take Endless Tide for crazy amount of Beyond monsters, and pretty much raise your chance to attract Beyond monsters to 100%. So just take all the nodes here up to Scent of Blood, and take some nodes down there for Beyond Chance and Beyond Chance for even more percentages up until you will have guaranteed Beyond in your maps. I also prefer to play with Ether because I think Ether can give us more quantity and it could be good for gold too. So moving to the right and taking Eldritch Gaze together with Shadow of Hunger, I think that's one of the best options currently. We will also need to take Supplication because we will need additional Shrine, and all additional Shrine nodes here and here to pretty much maximize the chance to contain additional Shrine too. It will lead to 2 more Shrines. Also taking Drawn to Power is very good because that way we'll have more magic packs, which is very nice, and more monster packs overall. I'm also taking Chances for Ritual because that's how we're buffing Ritual overall. And I recommend to block everything else except Ritual and Abyss because we are going to use both of them. You can also unblock Delirium because maybe it will roll the mirror, but we generally don't really need it too much. I'm also taking 1 Harbinger because it could be considered pretty nice and probably worth its points. In the middle of the 3, we just need to take Item Quantity and Rarity because Rarity is helping our build. And taking Chiseled Perfection is a very good option too. So the 3 overall is pretty simple. You can change some part of it, for example dropping Beyond if you can't handle it, and taking some other mechanics in. However, right now, that's pretty much the 3 that I received about 40k gold per map with, so look at that. So another question, which map you need to run? I generally prefer to run Mesa, because I think Mesa is a very good map right now. It's kinda circular and it's so easy to pick the shrines before you're killing all the monsters. As a second option, I would recommend to try Jungle Volley, because Jungle Volley give you some altar bonuses which could be nice, and map itself is pretty straightforward too, so you just need to push forward. Underground Sea could be a pretty decent option as well if you can navigate it fast, and I recommend to just rush the boss in there as fast as possible. And the last part is Toxic Sewers. If you really like small maps, I think that could be a very decent option for you as well. So generally any of those 3 would work just fine, so pick any and I'm sure it's going to work for you. Talking about preparation of the map, generally I just recommend to run 8 mod maps with high quantity. So if you can roll like 100% more quantity and at least 60% of rarity, that would be just perfect for your setup. You can take any 8 mods maps as the ones you can see on the screen right now, which is pretty much good, or you can just buy 8 mods maps. You can also try to corrupt them yourself, so a lot of options there. Just make sure that you have at least 60% rarity and about 100% quantity for a pretty decent set of results. So another important part is how we can prepare our character to take more rarity just out of our items. First part that I definitely recommend, it's using item rarity support. Item rarity support will give you 69% of increased rarity, which is very cool to be honest. And just that support itself will provide a huge increase of additional gold. So taking item rarity support is very recommended. Another important part is pretty much taking Experimental's Gold Flask, because it can give you about 30% of increased rarity of items found. You can pretty much automate it if you slap use when charges are full and add some duration on that. So I definitely recommend to use the Flask because it's going to raise your numbers significantly. If you have both Flask and Support already, the next step is pretty much using the rings. So generally you could just roll rare rings with about 26% up to 28% increased rarity of items found. I think it should work better than any unique options, however I'm going to showcase those too. So just rolling those rings could help you a lot and can provide about 50% of additional rarity. And the last part is pretty much helmet. You can just take a rare helmet with more rarity, about 20% at least, and it should work just fine for you. So combination of those should work very good. And I recommend to take every item because it's all going to help you with reaching higher numbers. The last part is you can pretty much handle the monsters and you don't really need a belt. You can try to use Beast Leash. Beast Leash can give you 1% increased rarity per 15 rampage kills, and it works pretty nice to be honest. Because you will be able to stack a lot of rampage kills, close to 1000 in most parts of the gameplay, so Beast Leash could be very good. As a separate option to reach high rarity, you can use La Hoop of all iron rings. They can provide about 24% rarity of items found, up to 30. So it could be a decent investment. If you don't really need non-channel skills have minus mana cost as I need on my rings, you can pretty much try to run Le Hoops, and that could be a very nice option too. You can also apply that strategy to tier 17 without any big issue, and pretty much just run it in the same fashion and receive even more gold. However, since tier 17 have a pretty significant cost right now, I'm not sure how great that idea is, and genuinely would recommend to run tier 16 instead, because that one will be almost free, and it will be much easier to just get some gold pretty fast and move forward. So that's pretty much what you will need to do in a run. Here is my example run that I did just for the video. It's a little longer than I usually run it for, but I think it's a pretty great example. The video is sped up for some percentage, just because it will be much easier to showcase it that way, and I'm not sure if you want to watch like the whole long run. However, you will be able to see the gold at the end of the video and just see how much I will be able to get. So pretty much to prove my points and capabilities of the strategy. So generally, while you're running the map, you don't need to do anything except picking the altars first and trying to get evolution altar first as well. So it's good if it's spawned pretty much close to you at the start, but if it's not too close, you can just run around and search for it. I recommend to start clearing after that and just try to kill all monsters while you have evolution altar. So if you notice that you have 2 evolution altars close, I recommend to pick one, clear some part of the map, and only after that came back for another. So in that regard, you will be able to clear almost the whole map while you're under evolution shrine. And that's a pretty good result, because while you're fighting most of the monsters, you will be able to receive more gold from them just because of the evolution shrine itself. Everything else is not so important. You will need to have a pretty strong build, because if you will repick like helmet, rings and belt for options with rarity, your builds should be strong enough to pretty much just handle beyond at least while you are fighting monsters. And if you don't have a strong enough build, you can just drop beyond. It's not really providing that much gold, but if you can handle it, I still recommend it. You can also slap Delirium on top of what you already have, because that way you will receive even more gold in the process. However, it's not necessary, and most of the time I prefer not to pick it to avoid making the run too long in terms of just pure time. And if you can kill the boss early, it can help you as well, because that way you will receive better altars and you will have more chances to receive altars for quantity. Even if you're running like Exarch, for example, altars for quantity still can help you, because gold is affected by quantity in exact same fashion as it's affected by rarity. Rarity is more important, it's easier to stack it right now, we are stacking quantity anyway, but if you can get altars for quantity, focus on them. So the whole numbers of the strategy can vary from like 35 to probably even 45 or maybe even 50k per map, because you can receive more altars, just like luckier set of monsters, more monsters will spawn inside the rituals, but generally 40k should be like a golden standard and you should be close to it all the time. So even if you will go a little on top of that, or if you will be a little below that number. And you can just take some tips from the video and apply it to your tactics that you're using to pretty much farm gold yourself, because most of those are going to showcase what is good for farming gold. As you can see, I myself make a little steps from the strategy, so it's not absolutely important, and you will still end up with a lot of gold in the end. And if you want to make your maps even profitable, you can swap or Atlas, like at least a little, and pretty much get different mechanics in there to make sure that you're going to receive profit from it too. So that's been my farming strategy for gold. You can take any tips from the list or just use the strategy as a whole. You're going to receive a lot of gold anyway. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time. ronarray out.